Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Today is Grant Cameron, and I'm here from Canada. And I have a former Canadian with me today from the province of Quebec, uh, Jimmy Blanchette. And in the last couple of days, I guess it was just yesterday or day before, the U.S. government, the intelligence people put out their report on the UFOs and or the UAPs or whatever they want to call it. And basically, all they basically said was, "Oh, now we got 360 new cases and there's 512 cases. We can't tell you what they look like because it's classified, and we can't tell you what the report is." And it was like a total waste of time. And basically, the only comment I made was, "We need to get past this. There are people in the field like Jimmy Blanchette who are working on this, who are putting this together, what this actually means. We got to talk to the experiencers, and we got to talk to the people who are looking at the patterns. We can't be sitting there waiting for the government to hand us something. We're getting the government, and we're getting UFOs confused with Santa Claus. This is something that we have people like Jimmy that I very much respect, who's come across almost like I guess it's what they would call in science the what do they call it, the constants that even I think one Hawking's actually said, he said he was an atheist, but he said he really had to think twice when it came to how many constants there were that all seemed to fit together and how this all came together. And that's what Jimmy's doing. Jimmy has found this sort of a pattern that sort of defines how nature is put together, how it is all assembled, how it's all linked together. And we've done a couple of broadcasts in the past, and we're going to do another one. Jimmy says this is his most important update. I get very excited by this, and I know that scientists like Bob McGuire get very excited by this because this actually makes sense. When you actually look at it, you say, there's no way this is coincidence, the numbers and how they all fit together. So welcome, Jimmy, and thank you for allowing me to record this and to get it out to my people. Something that I think is extremely important that people need to watch instead of looking at the UFO sightings and stuff like that. There are people that really, I think, are moving along very quickly in determining what's actually going on here.
Thank you so much, Grant, for having me on the show. And, I really appreciate you giving us a platform to share the information. I think it's really important. And as you mentioned, there's a lot of great people out there that have experience and have information and insight and so on to help us, put all these pieces of the puzzle together.
Yeah.
So, yeah, thank you. I'm very excited about tonight. We have a lot of material to go through.
Wow. Okay, so let's get started. And this is a follow up on your other material. And I was talking to Bob McGuire. He's got the antenna now. You've got somebody else with the big antenna, and he's excited and looking forward to trying to solve some stuff. So you've got some people going around the world that are sort of encouraged by what you've done and are trying to follow up on and get more material. So I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, I've had the opportunity to exchange a lot with Bob, and I'm very excited about that relationship we have. Bob, a lot of experience as an amateur radio operator, but also in science in general and so on. So, there's a community out there that, we're working together, and there's a lot of opportunities and cooperation because sometimes, of course, we don't always have all all the pieces of the puzzle, right? So it's that cooperation is very helpful, and Bob has been great so far, and I really enjoy it.
Yeah, yeah. But once you do get the pieces, I sort of noticed with mine, and I think with you, is once you get one or two pieces that seem to fit, it sort of drags you down the rabbit hole, and then you get really excited. And then you find a third piece that fits and a fourth piece that fits, and you start assembling this thing, and it's just a matter of trying to get the message out to other people that this is actually going on, and that this may help us solve what this mystery is that's been going on for 75 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Since I started, as you said, there's things that just were so powerful and obvious that I started putting these things together. And not only that, or not only with citing and everything, mathematically, when we looked at it from a mathematical standpoint, the math is so perfect and so amazing that it's just statistically speaking, it's just there's no way it's a coincidence or an accident. And that's what we're going to see tonight. I mean, all this is coming together in a big way. I think, you know, what we're going to go through tonight will give a very different perspective on our current physics. There's really a different perspective that we can have on our current physics and quantum physics as well. And all that is all encoded. And that's the first part of this presentation we'll go through. I have 85 slides to go through, several video clips. And the first part of it will be related to look at the evidence, meaning that where I stand right now, it seems very clear to me that the intelligence has been communicating the keys of the universe to humanity all along, right in our face, and just waiting for us to recognize that information and to utilize it. Because obviously, once we can utilize the keys of the universe and all these, you know, these principles that are already driving the whole universe, we can develop technologies based on that, and we can change the world literally. And I'm very convinced of that. And that's what we're going to go through tonight. I do have a lot of material, and I'm super excited to show it.
And just to point out, I mean, you pointed out in previous broadcasts that this may actually be encoded in ancient structures, that this has been waiting for thousands of years for someone like you to come along to realize that all this stuff is connected, and they've been putting down the breadcrumbs for thousands of years already.
Absolutely. I mean, we know, for instance, in the Great Pyramid of Giza is one that kind of all know there's the information encoded in there. There's a lot of folks that out there that did great work with the pyramid. I did my own analysis actually of the pyramid, Grant, last fall for the first time. I had never taken the time really to look at it deeply, and I did, and I came up with an analysis. I'm going to present that tonight as well. That's part of it, that will show exactly these ingredients that are the building blocks of creation. It's very powerful, and it all comes together. I do have literally, we're going to see it in the second part of the presentation. When the first part will be to show the evidence. I do have my own experience. I've had more experience with my antenna system during transmissions. I've had sightings that has that information encoded in it. We'll see it. I do have a very quite amazing sighting from a different experiencer. Her name is Linda A. Roraha. She's an experiencer. I've been in touch with her since for several years now. And that she will be a great person, Grant, to have on your show. She's fantastic. She has a great relationship with her cosmic family, and she made a request for a sighting which occurred, and it's probably the most spectacular sighting that I've seen, where there are objects that are making geometrical shapes in flight. As requested. She had requested it, and they do. But this geometrical shape contains exactly, again, these building blocks of creation. It's fantastic. And we'll go through that. I have the video. We'll do the analysis of that video. I have other sightings that I had experienced myself. I'm going to show it. The second part will be, actually, I have the agenda. Maybe I can show you on the slides.
Sure.
If I can share my screen.
Take the screen and let's go.
Let's do that. So, okay, share sound, share the screen. Here we go. All right.
Beautiful.
Perfect. So you see the slides. Very good. So here we go. So this is the agenda here. As I said, the first part is that to demonstrate that the intelligence has been essentially manifesting the keys of the universe all along. These are different analysis we're going to go through. And we're going to start actually in a few minutes. I want to start with a short video clip of about 3 minutes about the golden ratio, because it's very fundamental that the audience understand what that is, because that's one of these key ingredients here. So it's just educational, open source. And then we'll go through these analysis. And then the part two, I'm going to be introducing, and I'm super excited about it, really a new perspective on our current physics, using or based on geometric harmonics, because these are the things that the intelligence have been communicating to us. I have been able over the last several weeks and months to create if you will, the equivalent of the existing physics that we are dealing with, but with geometric harmonics. And it brings a completely different perspective on things. And I have a set of formulas, the same type of E = mc² that everybody knows. I have a set of several formulas that essentially, from which we can recreate the entire quantum space, for instance, that explains the Planck length, the Planck volume, how production of matter occurs using this harmonic.
Wow.
And the match typically in these formula match the formula using these geometric harmonics match the current the classical physics, if you will, the value we found in physics, but typically at 99.9% and above in terms of accuracy.
Okay.
So I know this is not an accident. The math works.
Yeah.
Works amazing. Also, I have a new formula for general relativity. We're going to even show how that we can calculate the volume and density of the universe. I mean, the universe currently has there's published data out there. If you go on Wikipedia, for instance, there's an estimate of the density of the volume of the universe. There's an estimate of the mass of the universe. So we're gonna rework that, but using our new model, if you will, or new physics model, using this geometric harmonics, and gives a completely different perspective. Wow. We're going to show the formula that explains gravity and acceleration, and we're going to touch base at the end regarding platonic solids, because the platonic solids combined with this geometric harmonics are really the crucible of creation. We're going to give an example. Again, it's all backed up by mathematical stuff. And what I'm going to do also, I'm going to do things a bit differently today. I'm not going to go so much into the math details, because I know that it can be hard for some people, and the audience can get technical. So what I'm going to do, I'm just often show the results of these calculations, and I'm going to zap through these slides that contains the details. I'm just going to put them on the screen a few seconds for the record, so it's on the record. And for those who are interested in this, they can just take a screenshot of that, slide, and then they can have the details. So
beautiful.
Let's go through this again. Now, first part is what we're going to show here is that it's very obvious to me at this point that the intelligence has been communicating the keys of the universe all along to us through ancient sacred sites. We talked about the pyramid. Rendlesham is a famous example also. It's same thing. And even current sightings that occurred that I experienced myself in terms of manifestation, and even other people like Linda, for instance, which we're going to go through. Yeah. So let me play as next because it's very, very fundamental that the audience understand a couple of principles here, because we're gonna talk about it throughout the presentation. So the first one I would like to show is a short video clip about the golden ratio. What the golden ratio is. It's a 3 minutes. It's educational, and then we'll pick it up from there. Okay.
Okay. Good.
All right.
All right. So this ratio of 1 to 1.6. And this is the ratio that's called the golden ratio, a 1 to 1.6 ratio. Growing and expanding to the rate of the golden ratio spiral allows the maximum amount of rain to be directed down to the roots of many plants. And remarkably, when you study nature, you see the golden Fibonacci numbers like 3, 5, 8, 13, all of that again and again in the seed pattern spirals of plants, as well as in the number of petals. Next time you're bored and have a sunflower, try counting the number of seeds in the sunflower spiral, the golden ratio. Or maybe try something else with a spiral, like a pine cone or pineapple. So we could spend all day counting the seeds of flowers and plants and fruit. I mean, you get the idea. But we don't just see this golden ratio sequence on a small scale. This ratio is the mathematical sequence in the spirals of our storms, tornadoes, hurricanes. These all spin in this golden sequence, 1 to 1.6. Even the waves can be measured using this ratio. But it doesn't stop there. Modern technology continues to be mystified by the far-reaching scope of the golden ratio, from the alignment of the planets to the spirals of our Milky Way galaxy, as well as the spirals of other ratios in planets. Now let's take this closer to home. I want you to hold out your arm and look at the distance between your shoulder and your elbow, and then from your elbow to your fingertips. Notice how your elbow, from your shoulder to your elbow is 1, and then from your elbow to your fingertips is 1.6. Pretty crazy, huh? But it doesn't stop there. Now take that further. The distance from your fingertips to your wrist is 1, and from your wrist to your elbow is 1.6. Keep it going. From the furthest tip of your finger to the bottom of your fingers is 1, and from the bottom of your fingers to your wrist is 1.6. Now check out the spacing of your knuckles. 1 to 1.6. Are you getting freaked out yet?
I'm freaked out.
Think about this. The head to your belly button, 1, and then belly button to your feet, 1.6. From your toes to your knees, and from your knees to your hips, golden ratio. Ever wonder why your 2 front teeth are so much bigger? Golden ratio. The pupils of your eyes, I mean, you name it, your whole body is the symphony of the golden ratio. In fact, as you are listening to this video, the sound waves are passing through your ear in a perfect golden spiral. Scientists have discovered that the golden ratio pattern is necessary for the human brain, the neural system, our sense organs, and our lung system. The golden ratio sequence is even in the helix of our DNA, and it forms the very rhythm of our heartbeat pattern.
All right.
Holy cow. I didn't know that. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's really something. And sometimes I realize that I talk about these things, and unless we see really where that's going, it's but now I think this video was really great to
Can I ask a question about on this?
Of course.
She's talking about people are starting to get this. Is general science getting this, or is this still sort of a portion of science where people aren't really listening? Are the main people in science aware of all this, and is there research being done on this?
Oh yeah. The golden ratio is very well known. I mean, it's known mathematically. It's been analyzed in different ways. I won't go into the detail of it, but mathematically, it's quite amazing, right? It's a recursive sequence. It's just like it's really a driving force in nature, and we can show it mathematically why it's special and why it is that way. But yeah, it is known. However, it's known in the context of the current science, right? And the current science does not explain everything, and we know poorly explain consciousness and this type of thing, right? And so there are big missing pieces to current science, and we're gonna go through that tonight, because the conclusions of what we're going to show really connects again to the consciousness field, and I think I feel strongly really connects science to spirituality in many ways, because it's we're gonna demonstrate it. So
good.
Let me go to the next slide. So golden ratio is a key one here, and so in terms of evidence, I mean, you may recall I shared this clip in the last update, and I'm going to replay it one more time. It's just a very short clip about the golden ratio triangular craft. It is a sighting or manifestation I occurred while broadcasting here, like 4 times already, and I have actually a slide here that shows the 4 times that we had the sighting. The first one was on December 5th, 2021. We see here on the upper right side these objects or craft that popped in and out of the dimension, and what's amazing about it is that this craft is in perfect golden ratio proportion, right? Because what we're seeing, the lady with the arm, for instance, is showing the proportion. These are the same proportions we see here to that triangle.
Yeah.
And so let me play briefly the video here, and then we'll get back to the slide. So again, this is a transmission I made in 2022. This is recent, and this was after 3 times. So this craft had manifested already 3 times, and after 3 times I decided to create a message to invite this intelligence to manifest again, and I had actually in that message indicated that I showed the sign of the golden ratio, meaning that I had figured out that what they were trying to communicate, and so that was a bit sending my homework back to them, if you will. And during the broadcast, during the broadcast of that invitation message, the golden ratio triangular craft, as I call it, manifested again. So here it is. The video is about 3 minutes. Okay, so let me go back to the slide. So, and the thing that we looked at last time is that upon doing a deeper analysis of this craft, I realized that if we take any side of this triangle and we divide or ratio it by any other side, we always get the golden ratio or the golden ratio squared. For instance, if we take a side C here, the long side at the bottom, and we divide by the length of side A, we get the golden ratio squared at the 99.1% match. If we take side B, we divide by side A, we get the golden ratio at, again at 99.2%, and side C divided by side B, or again, the golden ratio. So, you know, hard to believe that this was an accident, obviously. But the second thing that I discovered is that not only this graph is encoding the golden ratio, I started using a software. If you look at the bottom here, this is the output of a software to model triangles. And I started tweaking and trying to fine tune and understand the message that was behind this. And I realized that even the angle of this triangle encoded these harmonics of light 144 and 432. If you look here, the angle, the A side here is exactly 4.32 degrees.
Oh.
Right, this is harmonic 432. If we look on the right side here, the side B is 6.944 degrees after the, the fine tune, but this match exactly the reciprocal of harmonic 144, exactly.
Yeah.
And even the side here on the angle C also relates to as you see, the golden ratio squared and harmonic 432. So essentially, this craft is really revealing these harmonic 144, 432, and the golden ratio. I mean, just no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Let's go to the next one. And this is the equation, if you recall, right? This equation on upper right side, this 144, golden ratio, 432. These were the ingredients that I introduced last time that, based on my work, I believe clearly these are the driving force of the universe. Everything is based on that. And to give maybe a quick analogy here, if we look at the primary colors, right? If we look at the blue, the yellow, and the red, with these three primary colors, we can reconstruct the entire visible spectrum in terms of the color spectrum.
Yeah.
And, if we go watch a movie, for instance, right, really we see what we see. We have an illusion of reality. Even if we go watch a 3D movie, it's even more. We have the impression of being in it, right?
Yeah.
So we can really create an illusion of reality. This color spectrum, these light harmonics, this light energy is really creating an illusion of reality. So, and we can essentially recreate the entirety of our physical or visual reality with these three colors, because from there we can reconstruct the entire color spectrum. So this is the analogy I can give here, is that this is the formula I introduced last time, but these harmonic 144, 432, and the golden ratio act, if you will, at these three primary colors, because from there, by the combination, we can reconstruct the entire physical perception that we see, the physical reality, that the perception that we see, and recreate matter, gravity, and so on. And amazingly, mathematically, this equation actually equals to the number 1. And that's important in itself too, because that number 1 really represents the holographic universe we live in, the singularity. And essentially represents the consciousness field. And so from that equation connects directly the consciousness field to our physical reality, to what we perceive actually as our physical reality. And that's what the equation here does. I call it the formula for the light encoded reality matrix, because we live in a reality matrix that's encoded with light, right? It's made of light.
Wow.
So, and why is it important? Well, once we understand that, when we understand what the building blocks of creations are and how they operate, we can recreate and we can develop healing technologies, for instance, based on these harmonics, develop interstellar communication, free energy. We can better understand telepathy and work on it, because as we'll see, our brain waves themselves, and even the Schumann resonance of planet Earth, are totally connected to these harmonics. And mathematically, it's demonstrable. I've demonstrated that mathematically.
Yeah.
Develop anti-gravity, space travel, and so on. So this is why it's important. And I had seen that question after our last interview. Some folks were wondering, okay, what can we do with that, right? And that's why I created this slide, to make people understand when we understand that, how things works, we can do a lot with it.
Okay.
All right. So the first one, I want to show more example of non-human intelligence manifestations, which encodes this information. This V-shaped manifestation, again, I mentioned it earlier. So a good friend, Linda, was generous enough to share her footage. And she asked me to do an analysis on her footage to determine if there was, anything in there that, we could make sense of. And I invite everyone maybe to look at my YouTube channel. I have two videos on this where I give more information about her and a bit her story there. And so you can find that out on my YouTube channel. But again, Linda has a great connection with her star family, and she made a request back in 2016 for V-shaped sighting and other forms. And she was guided really to go in their backyard and point the camera in a specific direction, and a certain moment just press the record button, and we'll see what happened next. So let me play the video, and we'll pick it up from there.
Okay.
Again, I think that's probably one of the most impressive video that I've seen.
And what's your YouTube site for people that want to go there?
Yes, it's called CE5 videos.
Okay.
CE5 videos, yeah. So what we'll see here, let me give some background. So, and Linda has one of the same night vision camera that I have here. It's a Luna Optics. These camera, they have a very narrow field of view. Really, I think it's like 2 degrees by 4 degrees. I mean, you can typically capture, if you look at in the sky, the size of the Orion belt, you know, you can capture the Orion belt a little bit bigger. So it's very zoomed in, very focused. So it requires a lot of skills to film, to point, but also to point to something that's moving in the sky. So as you will see, she was instructed to hold the camera in a certain direction, and at a certain instant, instructed to start the record, and that's where we're going to see the video starting. So let me pick it up from there. Here we go. So let me play it one more time here, because I think it's worth taking it.
Is she in the United States?
She lives in the Netherlands.
Okay.
Yeah. You will see, if you pay close attention, the first geometrical shape that we'll see is like an inverted pyramid. So there are 4 objects, and one is at the bottom. So very stable. And then the 5 objects change position and to create a V shape. Yeah. Right. And that V shape is stretched and then collapses and then stretches back. And then the third thing that we can see, it forms something that looks like a tetrahedron. I mean, that's the analysis that I did, and we'll go through that, right? So pay attention to this. Here we go. All right. So I will say that probably the Tic Tac video is a distraction compared to this video.
Yeah, or the report yesterday was like a total joke compared to this. I mean, wow,
we learn.
That is amazing.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, we learn we cannot rely on the outside.
Well, one question about that. Bob McGuire got a film maybe about a month ago. It reminded me of what you're showing there. Sort of a string of lights sort of moving through the sky. Did you look at that video of his?
I've seen it. Yeah, Bob shared his videos. It's we have good exchange. Yeah, they're having a lot of interactions there. Some of them, many of them, looks like what I'm seeing here with my own camera. There's some that are almost identical, and so there's commonalities there, which is great, because one part of it is that when we can replicate certain phenomena and so on, it's always a great thing for science.
Yeah, because I was amazed when he had the one where it looked like a string of lights. It was like a snake moving through the sky, and it was moving, and it wasn't. It's impressive when it actually reshapes itself into very clear form shapes of very symbolic. And I mean, it's pretty hard to argue with that. That's amazing.
It's fantastic, and you will see. What's contained in this is just mind-blowing. The information contained in this. Again, strongly recommend Grant that you interview Linda. She's a great experiencer. You absolutely have to talk to her. Yeah. So these are some screenshots here. We see at the bottom of the position. We see the one on the bottom left is an inverted pyramid, if you will, with the tip, towards the bottom and so on. So let's a bit go further. So she asked me to look at the video and see if I could find anything there, right? So the first thing I tried, I used this the V shape here, which was in a stable position, took a screenshot and did an analysis on it. And
of course,
so you see at the upper right side, upper left side, we see what the V shape is. So when I zoomed in and create a baseline here, these 3 objects at the base were pretty horizontal, so that was perfect to create a baseline. The 2 objects on the upper right side not perfectly aligned, so I went right in between to have the best average between the 2. And which angle are we seeing? 144 degrees.
Yeah, wow. That's unreal.
It's quite something. The second thing I looked at was this arrangement more towards the end of the video, and so let me show you here. So reorganized it a little bit. So I zoomed in, flip it, again, because the tip of that tetrahedron goes down towards the bottom for some reason.
Yeah.
So I just flipped it back up. And what we see here clearly is a perfect tetrahedron with an inscribed sphere in the middle.
Oh yeah.
You see, there's a fifth object is right in the middle here.
Wow.
And you know what? It's just amazing because I have been working for months on exactly that. Look at the upper right side here. These are the tetrahedron harmonic simulations that I had been working on for several weeks or several months now. I'm going to talk about it in a minute. So this is connected to this. Yeah. Now, what does that represent? If we look at the bottom right here, well, it's known that the sum of the angles of a tetrahedron adds up to 720 degrees. And each degree has 60 minutes of arc per degree. So we end up with a harmonic equivalent of 43,200, which is essentially harmonic 432. So that tetrahedral shape is there to reveal and tell us that, pay attention to this harmonic 432 very clearly. We see a bit of different representation here. Now, why is that important? If we look on the left side, the flower of life, which everybody knows about, right? But the flower of life is a 2D, two-dimensional representation of something bigger, right? And that something bigger is the 64 tetrahedron grid here that we see, right? If you go on the top of this 64 tetrahedron grid and you cast a light, the form that's going to take place at the bottom will be the 2D flower of life, right? So this is a 3D representation of the flower of life 2D. And this is, we live in a three-dimensional world, in terms of our senses. So this is what we work with. And there are 64 tetrahedrons. So these tetrahedrons really are like the engine of light, pumping this, as an analogy, pumping the light in and out in our reality. That's what they do. And that's why it's important. And that's match actually the tetrahedron harmonic simulation that I've been working with, that I wanted to present for a while now. And let me show you a bit what that is here. So if we take the totality of the singularity, the holographic universe we live in, right, represented by the number 1, right? This is the number 1 we see here. We take that oneness, if you will, and we divide it. We create a division. We fractalize it through the golden ratio principle that we watched the video earlier, right? That's what's driving everything. We create a division of that, and that value, which equal to 0.618033999, we take that value as the volume of the tetrahedron. So we can imagine like pouring liquid energy in that tetrahedron, right? So there will be 618 gallons, if you will, of that liquid energy total. Now, if we do that mathematically, if we calculate the volume of the inscribed sphere inside, there are mathematical formula that calculates that precisely, what that inscribed sphere will be, right? Because that inscribed sphere is such that it touches the wall. It has to be big enough to touch the wall, if you will, of the tetrahedron. Well, the volume of the inscribed sphere in terms of harmonic is exactly equivalent to 432 squared, which, by the way, is the speed of light in miles per second. Right. And outside the sphere, the residual volume, if you will, is exactly also harmonic 432. So when we ask ourselves, where is this number of 432 coming from? Why is it everywhere encoded in the Great Pyramid? It's encoded, it's people use that with music, and that frequency has the special properties. Well, based on my work and based on what I believe at this point, what I've seen is that at the creation level, the light energy, or the oneness, when it's divided and fractalized through the golden ratio, through nature and so on, this is the harmonic actually that drives everything. Now, let me precise that this harmonic 432 is in fact 3 times 144, right? The harmonic 144, you multiply by 3, you get 432. So it's just essentially the third harmonic of the fundamental harmonic 144. But it has in it a very, very special role, and it's a very unique. So let's move on. The third thing that I looked at was, and I had just a feeling, right? We have these intuitions that why is this V shape stretching and then contracting, right? There's something going on here. It doesn't happen by accident. And from all my experience, nothing that they do, nothing that the intelligence does is an accident. There's always information contained in it.
Exactly.
So I did the analysis of these screenshots. So I zoomed them in, kept them in the same proportion. And what we realize is that if we look at the red length, if you will, and we compare it to the length when the V shape is contracted versus when it's stretched, we get exactly the golden ratio squared again. Exactly. Yeah. It's just stunning. And I have the output of the PowerPoint here. You look, the width, you know, in the program was 2.61, and that's what I represented here, and here the width is 1. I mean, it's exact. So what we end up with in this sighting, we see that the V shape had an angle of 144 degrees. We see that the stretch versus contracted position represents or reveals the golden ratio. And this tetrahedron with the inscribed sphere represent harmonic 432, which just happens to match exactly the equation that I introduced in the last update. 144 times golden ratio times harmonic 432 gives the singularity, number 1, which is the consciousness field, by the way.
Wow. The more I hear, I've mentioned this to you before, Jimmy. Like when I'm listening to this, I just keep thinking like I'm sitting here at the time of the Solvay conference. You remember 1927, where they had what was it, 17 Nobel Prize winners there, and they were all arguing about, you know, the new quantum physics and stuff. This is what I would look at is like, I'm watching history. I mean, it's stunning what you've come up with here, that it's almost like this is the future of where it's all going to unravel. I feel so honored even just to talk to you and to get you to explain it to me, and where other people haven't really seen it yet. And just fascinating stuff.
Well, thank you, Graham. I mean, this is so exciting. I mean,
yeah. Oh, no kidding.
And it's a matter of perspective. Right. When we look at it with that in mind, with that perspective, we see a different reality. And we'll see even some of the sightings that are very known, like the Nimitz, for instance, right? The Nimitz, which happened on the coast of Catalina Island. Well, it just happens to be that the Catalina Island is exactly harmonic 144 from the Great Pyramid of Giza. We'll see it in a minute. So well, we need to look at it from, you know, that perspective. The other thing I wanted to show here is the analysis. So last fall, shortly after we had our last update, I decided to do my own analysis of the Great Pyramid of Giza. I had not done it yet. I knew there were things encoded in there. I knew certain things, but I restarted from scratch, if you will. So let me walk us through this a little bit here, because it's really important. So what we're going to see here is that the Great Pyramid of Giza is really, really revealing the same harmonics again, 144, 432, and golden ratio. If we look on the upper left side here, if you go on Wikipedia, if you look at, look for dimensions of the Great Pyramid, this is what you're going to find, right? In the metric system, the base is 230.6, the half base, the height, the hypotenuse, and the angle, the slope angle, which is 51.84 degrees. So I started to, the first thing that, of course, I had in mind is that, okay, let's see if there's golden ratio in there, right? So, and if we look on the upper right side here, obviously, and unsurprisingly, if we take the length of the hypotenuse, this 186.6 meter, and we divide by the half base, we get exactly the golden ratio at 99.98%.
Wow.
If we take the height of the Great Pyramid, which is 146.6, and we divide by the half base, we get the golden root, as we call, or the square root of the golden ratio at 99.94%. I mean, the match is just stunning.
Wow.
If we take the base divided by the height, we get the golden ratio again. And the angle, if you look at the pyramid angle, the 51.84 is actually corresponding to harmonic 432 times the square root of 144. And at this one, I'm going to do it on the calculator machine, because it's worth just to give a visual to the folks out there, right? So if we take 43.2, which is harmonic 432, right? In harmonic mathematics, we can slide the decimal left or right. And we multiply that by harmonic 144 square root, we get exactly 51.84. This is the angle of the Great Pyramid. See, 51.4.
Amazing. Yeah.
I mean, 100% match. And the match here, the match we see here is the actual accuracy, right, of that calculation. So there's 100% match on it. Now, look at the hypotenuse. Hypotenuse is 186.6, right? Well, this happens to be exactly harmonic 432 squared, 433 43.2 times 432. I'm going to do it here,
Yep.
just people can see it. So 43.2 times 4.32, we get 186.6. This is the hypotenuse of the Great Pyramid. Same for the height. So the height is at 146.6. That is equivalent to harmonic 144 plus the golden ratio squared, that 100% accuracy. The base of the Great Pyramid, 230.6, is equivalent to harmonic 144 times golden ratio minus the golden ratio squared at 99.9%. So everything about the dimension of the Great Pyramid of Giza, all aspect of it, or the ingredients of that, if you will, are this harmonic 144, 432, and golden ratio. There's just no doubt about it. And it's known, if you look at the bottom right side here, that it's known that once upon a time, there was a casing, right? There were casing stones on the Great Pyramid. It is said that there were 144,000 casing stones of perfectly white polished limestone that were covering the Great Pyramid of Giza. And apparently these were stolen, if you will, taken out to build Cairo, literally. And it was used to build the city. So, and now the other thing I show here, which is a bit small, but if you look at the bottom, if we look at the volume of the Great Pyramid of Giza, when we enter these dimensions that we found in Wikipedia, the volume is if you round it, 2.6, which is about the golden ratio squared. 2.618 would be the golden ratio squared. You see here, we see it at the left side. Even the volume of the Great Pyramid is matched. So clearly the Great Pyramid encodes that information. It's just, and the match is stunning. And if you look at, if you recall also what the tetrahedron we saw earlier, right? This guy, and we saw this guy, right? If you recall here, the volume of the inscribed sphere was 186.6, right? Speed of light harmonic. This happens to be the hypotenuse of the Great Pyramid, 186.6.
Wow.
So the tetrahedron, the tetrahedron encodes that information as well. Now, here's another thing that I discovered that was absolutely mind-blowing to me. Even the location, the geographical location on planet Earth where the Great Pyramid is located encodes these harmonics. Let me show this here. So if we go at the latitude 0 and longitude 0, right in the middle here, this is the coordinate of origin, 0 latitude, 0 longitude. Okay. And if we look at the pyramid, which is right here, right, the longitude of the Great Pyramid is 31.13 degrees, right, plus some decimals. Well, if we convert that into a distance, right, and we use the nautical miles here because this nautical miles is compatible with geometric harmonics. We use a nautical mile system in geometric harmonics. So we take that longitude and we multiply by 60, we get 1868 nautical miles. So the Great Pyramid is located exactly at 1868 nautical miles from the prime meridian.
Wow. And
this is this harmonic again, if you recall, right? If you look at the hypotenuse of the Great Pyramid, 1866, I mean, the match is almost perfect. It's 99.9% more, And the same with the inscribed sphere here of the tetrahedron, which is 186.6. So this distance essentially of the Great Pyramid from the prime meridian matched this 432 squared. And amazing. Now, here's another one that's interesting. If we calculate the harmonic distance from the Great Pyramid to the Rendlesham Forest, where the UFO landed, in the Rendlesham Forest, we calculate the distance, it's 1,864 nautical miles. Wow. Which is match again is 1866, 1868, and we're talking about fractions of a percent here, fraction of a percent of accuracy. So the Rendlesham UFO did not land there by accident. I mean, just happens to match exactly that figure again. And here's another thing that I discovered was stunning to me. Now, when we move up, from the prime meridian on the prime meridian to the actual latitude where the Great Pyramid is built. The latitude is 29.9792458. That happens to be the speed of light in the metric system. 299.79. And also, if you look at the distance, the harmonic distance from the prime meridian to the Great Pyramid here, it's 1,613 nautical miles. And the golden ratio is 1618. I mean, we're 5 nautical miles to be exactly the golden ratio. So even at the latitude, the distance equals golden ratio here. Wow. So that's what's encoded in the geographical location of the Great Pyramid. Now, one needs to wonder, right? at the time, so-called, that the Great Pyramid were built, the longitude and latitude system on planet Earth had not been invented yet, supposedly.
Yeah.
So how could it be that the pyramid is just happens to be right there where where these harmonics are being revealed, right? And so there's a lot of things going on here. Now, let me go to the next slide here. Okay. So before going further, I want to talk about a bit quantum physics here, because we're going to dig into this now. These harmonics, Grant, that we see, this harmonic 144, 432 golden ratio, are directly connected to quantum physics.
Good.
And what's encoded in the Great Pyramid of Giza in sightings connects directly to quantum physics as well, and we'll see why. Let me play the short video. It's about the 2 or 3 minutes video that explains what the Planck length is. Okay. It's important, just like the golden ratio. It's important for the audience to understand what we're going to be talking about in the next few slides. So let me go along here and play this short explanation of what the Planck length is at the quantum level.
Scientists have already discovered the pixel-sized building block of our universe, which is known as the Planck length. The smallest possible size for anything in our universe. It is at this point whereby the rules of gravity and space-time are no longer applicable. In our matrix simulation, this Planck length can be considered as one single pixel, as it is the tiniest amount which can be quantified. In the 1890s, Max Planck, the renowned physicist, suggested a set of units to streamline the representation of physics laws by applying the 5 constants in nature, such as the speed of light, the gravitational constant, and Planck constant. Quarks and leptons are the building blocks of matter and incredibly tiny, less than a billionth of a meter in diameter. If zooming further, a billion times more, beyond zeptometers and yoctometers, 100 million times smaller still, and eventually reaching the end will be the Planck length. Nothing beyond this point will be visible, as everything is energy, and nothing is physical. The scale of a Planck length, which is represented by 1.6 by 10 to the power of 35 meters, is the smallest thing that can be measured in our world, and for comparison purposes it is 100 million trillion times smaller than a proton. The Planck scale was devised as a set of universal units, but also represent the boundaries of the known laws of physics. Any space smaller than the Planck length does not work, as the physics completely break down. At the Planck scale, physicists theorize the 4 fundamental forces: gravity, the weak force, electromagnetism, and the strong force unite into a single force of energy. Thank you for watching, and do not forget to like and subscribe.
All right, so let's go through this. All right, let's bring the slides back. Okay, so let's talk about the Planck length. Quantum physics has been absolutely encoded in the ancient sacred sites, and the Great Pyramid is an example of it. For instance, if we take the Royal Egyptian cubit, right? So this is as we know, the measurement system that was used supposedly to build the pyramid.
Yep.
Right. Well, when we look at it from a harmonic standpoint, using the nautical mile system, right? It's all a matter of using the proper units that are compatible with geometric harmonics. When we do that, we realize that the Royal Egyptian cubit is exactly equivalent to the Planck length times 2 golden ratio at 99.9% accuracy. Mm. So essentially, what they used at the time, or what I say they use, I'm not saying that the Egyptian built the pyramid, by the way. Yeah. Whatever intelligence built the pyramid, use a scaled up version of the Planck length at the macro level. Mm-hmm. That's what that means. And also the Planck length can be represented here by harmonic 432 divided by 4 times golden ratio squared at 99.99% accuracy. Again, even the Planck length itself, which is in our current physics, quantum physics, has a representation in terms of these harmonics of light that we're talking about.
Wow. Wow.
And we see it here, right? The Planck length, the other representation. So if you take this value that comes out of this equation here, 144,432 times golden ratio squared, or if we simplify that equation, it equals golden ratio squared divided by 3. It matches the length, the Planck length, at 99.997%.
Wow. Wow.
And if we look, these harmonics here that makes up the Planck length are the same that makes up the Great Pyramid of Giza, the analysis we showed earlier. This is the same stuff again.
Yeah.
That's what they're trying to tell us.
Yeah.
All right, this slide, I'm not going to go through this. I'm just going to zap over it just for the record. So for those who are interested in math and how it's been calculated, it's the details are right there, right? Yeah. So again, it's a matter of using the proper units that are compatible with geometric harmonics, and that opens up a totally new perspective on physics and on everything we're looking at. Okay, and this is the other slide here that I'm going to zap through. This is again the demonstration here, how it's calculated.
Okay.
Okay, let's talk about Chichen Itza for a second. So we talk about evidence that these harmonics have been communicated to us. Now, I'm going to start with a video here because well, let's talk before I show the video here. So NASA has conducted a secret experiment at the Chichen Itza, apparently. I didn't know that. It's a good friend of mine who sent me that video, and I jumped on my chair when I saw that because I understood why. Let's talk briefly as to, okay, where is Chichen Itza? Where is this pyramid located, right? The Mayan pyramid of Chichen Itza. Well, if we calculate the distance between this pyramid and the Chichen Itza and the Great Pyramid of Giza, we see it here in the middle. It's equivalent to 6,181 nautical miles, right? This is the geometric harmonic distance.
Yeah.
Right. Now, just look a little bit at the bottom here, right? So again, we can slide the decimal left to right here.
Yeah.
So this 6,181 is equivalent to 0.6181. And the reciprocal of the golden ratio is exactly 0.6180.
Wow.
Okay. And also the product of harmonic 144, and I'm going to do it on the screen here just to give some visual to the folks out there. If we take this harmonic 144, the product of 144 times harmonic 432 is equivalent to 0.6221, which matches also that pretty nicely.
Yep.
Right. So let me do it on the screen. Here's 144 times 0.432, 0.6221 when we round it. You see, that's what we see here.
Yeah.
So again, what are the odds that the location of this pyramid just be an accident from the Great Pyramid with that value, right? I mean, and I have the output of the software that I use to make that calculation. You see the coordinates of the Great Pyramid at Chichen Itza. And it's known, right, that Chichen Itza, you know, it's very known that there's a sun portal here, right? People go there during the spring equinox to meditate and connect, and there's a portal opening and so on. And I had presented this slide a couple of updates ago, but I'm just going to mention it again here because I think it's very relevant. The question is obviously why? I mean, why is there a portal there, right? What's happening? I mean, just like we saw clearly, there's a correspondence to the golden ratio and how these harmonic of light, 144, 432. But when we calculate the distance of the Earth to the sun distance to the Earth, at that exact moment, when the spring equinox occurs on March 21st, the distance between the sun and the Earth is exactly 80.78 millions of nautical miles. Again, we use nautical miles here. So 80.78 million nautical miles. This is what we see here. Well, this happens to match about 50 golden ratio because 50 golden ratio is 80.90 million nautical miles. So there's a match at 99.85%. And we can represent it differently here in the middle at the spring equinox. 50 golden ratio can be represented by this harmonic 144 golden ratio again here, you see. So essentially, at that moment, at the spring equinox, the reason, based on what this calculation, the reason why there's a portal opening is that the sun and the Earth grid are in a perfect harmony with this harmonic of light 144 and this golden ratio. This is why this is happening at that moment.
Yeah.
Now, let me play a video here of the secret NASA experiment, supposedly, that have been going on here. So here we go.
It's kind of a big secret. We know that NASA was down at Chichen Itza like 10 years ago and basically put a covered wall around the El Castillo, the main pyramid, so that they could do testing. And they were there for like almost a month testing the frequencies apparently that are emitted from the pyramid there. That tells you something. Why it's not more widely known probably is because they found some exotic energy. They found some exotic discharge from the pyramid, and they haven't figured it out yet. There's a whole science and technology that is missing. Robert Barreros, in his book 2012, talks about the height of the Mayan culture, and that at one point over 50,000 pyramids were active. They were pushing energy into the atmosphere.
All right.
Wow.
So we see here that clearly this location has attracted, scientists and people who follow this stuff, and they conduct like experiments. It makes sense why, right? So there's clearly something going on here in terms of portal opening, and based on my research here, it's because at that location on the Earth grid, there's a harmonic resonance that occurs with the sun when the sun is at the perfect distance, and that's why the distance is harmonic distance is critical. The harmonic distance from the Chichen Itza pyramid to the Great Pyramid is critical because it's on the Earth grid system. It's where there's a node, right? An energy node, if you will. But when the sun itself, which is a portal in itself, is at the perfect or correct distance from the Earth, which happens to be in the spring equinox, as we saw in the calculation here, right here, that's where this portal opens up essentially. And that's, I think, what has attracted the curiosity of the scientific community in the field. Now, here's another example. The famous Nimitz UFO incident, right? We all saw this, this video and everything. Well, anyone can go on the net and look at the distance between the coast of Catalina Island and the Great Pyramid of Giza, and you're going to find it at 6,625 nautical miles. This is a geometric harmonic distance. This happens to be matching exactly a whole number, 46 times 144. Let me do it here on the screen. If we take 46 times harmonic 144, we get 6624. And see the distance is 6625. So there's 99.99% match with a whole number of the harmonic 144. And so is it an accident that the Nimitz UFO incident occurred at that specific location? Well, I don't think it's an accident, because if you look at the accuracy of it, it's just stunning.
That makes me sort of wonder. I've told the story numerous times. The first night I saw UFO in 75, I sort of fell off my chair. And the second night, all I was wondering was, well, what's it doing? And now when I'm looking at this, you start to wonder whether all the sightings are actually like numbers, whether you're not picking it up or you're not picking it up. Like the one example is they talked about the planes that these objects came in really close, and they were square, or they're like boxes with circles on the inside.
That's right.
And then you start to wonder, like, maybe that's what UFO sightings, because I always make the joke, like, what are UFOs doing? And they're not doing anything. But now I look at this and you wonder, like, maybe they're just laying down this pattern over and over and over again. And it's not until someone gets a photograph and then someone like you comes along and measures it that you actually realize what's actually going on, that this all may have meanings, all the sightings. And it's this same pattern that they've been putting down for thousands of years.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm very convinced of that now, because the evidence is just there and it's mathematical. I mean, we can show the accuracy of it. It's just, if it will be one or twice, right? One or two, but it's now when we look at it with the correct perspective, we see what they're trying to communicate, which I believe are not only the keys to the universe, but they are communicating the information that will allow to free humanity from its current dependencies and limitations. Because if we develop technologies based on that, this is how powerful that is. I had presented that slide also about the Earth grid, right? Which are the lattice of the Earth grid are based on harmonic 144, golden ratio, and 432 as well. I'm not going to go through that, but this is why we look at the harmonic distance between the Great Pyramid, for instance, which is a reference point on the Earth grid, and some of these locations, like the Rendlesham UFO is an example, like the Nimitz, and so on.
Yeah. Wow.
All right, here's another one here. This is one of my own experience that I'm going to show. I have a video of it. I was broadcasting. It was on October 19th, 2022, so last fall, early evening. I was broadcasting, and during the broadcast, there's an object that started flashing, as we'll see on the video here. There were, we're going to focus on 4 flashes actually that occurred. Not a satellite, of course, because the object went totally on a path that was non-linear. There's a curvature to it, but also we'll see that there's information contained in this. And also because of the time, I mean, satellites, travel pretty fast in space at 25,000 miles an hour. They don't stay stationary. And you see that object, the first minute or so is completely stationary pretty much, and then starts moving and so on. So, but we'll see. So let me just play the video here. Here we go, called Saturn transmission. And we'll talk about it after. We'll do the analysis after. The first one is not very bright, but it's going to get brighter. Okay, now sighting number 2, 54 seconds later. Stationary, I mean, same position, pretty much. The third one is much brighter. So it went from being stationary to moving, and now 2 minutes later, roughly. And that occurred during the transmission. So we'll see the zoomed in, slowed down version of the last manifestation here.
Wow.
All right. Okay, so let's go back to the slide. Now, when I looked at this sighting initially, well, I didn't see visually something that was, could contain information and click, but I started looking at the timestamp of these 4 sightings, right? So we see here the sighting number 1, timestamp is at 6:47:46 p.m. Sighting number 2, 6:48:38. Sighting number 3, 6:49:59, and we see now it started moving, going non-linearly at the bottom. And the last one here, more intense, that was the last manifestation. So there are 4 sightings. So I took a shot. I said, okay, let's look at the difference between each of the sightings, right? So between sighting number 1 and 2, there's 52 seconds, 2 and 3, 71 seconds, and sighting 3 and 4, they're 114 seconds. The total experience lasted 237 seconds. So I said, okay, let's ratio these numbers and see if we discover something. Is there something in there? So I took essentially the 71 ratioed over the 52 seconds, or the 114 seconds, sorry, as a first attempt to look at if there was anything there. And what we realized that this ratio here, I'm going to do it on the screen so people can see that I'm not making this up. Right, so we take 71 seconds and we divide that by 114. We get 0.6228. This is the number here, see? Right, and that number happens to be equivalent to the product of harmonic 144 and 432 and 99.9%. And do it again. I'm going to take 1.44, multiply by harmonic 432, and we get 0.62208 instead of 0.6228. I mean, the match is just stunning. And again, if we just change that by 1 second, we don't have that accuracy anymore. I mean, to have that level of accuracy, you need to be to the second of accuracy. And this also happens to be, as we saw earlier, with the pyramid of Chichen Itza, it's also equivalent to the reciprocal of the golden ratio at 99.2%. This is what that ratio is.
Wow.
The other one that I decided to look at is the 71 seconds ratioed over 52 squared. And that happened to, and let me do it here. So we take 71 and we ratio that over the 52 seconds squared. We get 1.864. You see here, this is what I show here. Well, this is again the same thing again, right? This harmonic 432 squared, or matching the speed of light in miles per second at 99.9%.
Wow.
99.8%.
Wow.
hard to believe that's an accident, right?
Yeah, that's exactly.
That level of accuracy. And if you recall, you know, this 1864, if you recall, right, this happens to be exactly to the dot the distance between the Great Pyramid of Giza and the Rendlesham UFO. The distance, 1864 nautical miles. This is exactly that, to the dot. Now, we talked about the Planck length earlier, right?
Yeah.
So if we take, you know, what we saw essentially is the Planck length is the smallest possible oscillation of energy that can exist at the quantum level. Beyond that, you know, the physics breaks down. So there's a smallest, a tiny thing, smallest oscillation of energy that can be quantified. Now, if we take that length, that Planck length, and we represent that length as being the diameter of a sphere, right? That sphere essentially will be the smallest sphere that can exist at the quantum level, right? Because we know in the 3D world we live in, things are not flat, they are three-dimensional. It's a sphere. So let's create a sphere using the Planck length as the diameter of the sphere. And that's what I did. That's been part of my work, and I found amazing thing using that technique. So if we essentially create a sphere using the Planck length as diameter, the volume of the sphere will be equivalent to 348.21. 348. And here what we see is that this harmonic 1864 squared is exactly 347.45. So that harmonic also is equivalent to the Planck sphere at the quantum level.
Wow.
A 99.8% match.
Wow.
All right, that's where the sightings are not only about 432 to 144. Now we're getting into the quantum world here, the quantum scale, and that's what they're communicating.
Wow.
This is what we see here. And then the other one I did was to ratio finally the total experience that lasted 237 seconds over 114. That gave 2.07, blah, 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 which happens to be harmonic 144 squared at 99.7%. So out of these four numbers, essentially, this is, we end up with these, the key harmonics revealed through this transmission or right there, 144, 432, and the golden ratio.
Wow.
Now, again, that matches, if you recall, this tetrahedron that we talked about and that we saw in Linda's video, right? Yeah. When we fractalize the singularity, we fractalize the oneness, the total, you know, matrix, if you will, and we divide it, create a division through the golden ratio, we end up with this tetrahedron with these proportions that are matching what we just saw here in this sighting. All right, here's the last one. The last one that occurred to me recently, very recently. And the video is fairly short. It's about 30 seconds. But what you're going to see, and it was stunning. And if you look at these are screenshots. The screenshot to the left side, you're going to see two objects essentially appearing on the screen at the same time, on the same frame. And I looked on my video editing software. They just manifest exactly on the same frame. Okay. And after they manifest, then the object one disappeared, and this object that was on top here, which looks like a giant meteor, if you will, starts moving towards object number one that was at the bottom, and at a very specific distance, it disappeared, just vanishes completely. And what I found when I do the ratio of that is that this distance that this object travels to the object one is exactly the golden ratio.
Golden ratio, yeah. Wow.
And again, this, hard to believe that this would be some kind of meteor or something, because the size of it was so huge. We will see in a video that, you know, if you have a shooting star or something of that size, there's a debris, right? It kind of decomposes, and you see it just vanishes at the moment that it reaches. So let me play the video here and very fast.
That is pretty bright.
We're going to do it slowed down version.
Wow.
And it disappears right there.
Wow.
So let's go back to the slide. So it's quite stunning because, again, the distance that this thing traveled is 1.617, which is the golden ratio, 1.618,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
99.91% accuracy.
Wow.
Now look at just also this slide gives a good sense of how big this monster was. Look
Yeah.
at the, you know, my antenna was beamed towards the Orion belt. I was broadcasting in that direction,
Yeah.
and you see the Orion belt is huge. I mean, it's pretty big, and the stars of the Orion belt are pretty visible, they're pretty bright.
Yeah.
Sirius, which is the brightest star in the sky, Sirius,
Yeah.
very big. Look how big this monster was.
No kidding. No kidding.
And it traveled a distance about of the a bit bigger than the length of the Orion belt, I think, if you look at it from the, so it's pretty impressive. This was on November 20th of this year, so of 2022, so it's very recent. I mean, it's not even 2 months ago.
Wow.
And finally, as a final example of these harmonics being encoded in UFO manifestations or the intelligence manifestation. If we look at the Rendlesham, I'm not going to go through too much detail here because I went through this, I think, in my past. We did before. It's just to mention that when we look at the distance between where the craft landed and all the 7 coordinates, you know, that are revealed through the binary code of the Rendlesham, these are here. We see the distance in the table. Well, when we divide this distance by this harmonic, 144, 432 golden ratio, we get pi at 99.98%. I mean, we get all kind of mathematical relationship with this, which shows again that, you know, these are the same harmonics that are involved here in Rendlesham.
Yeah, just for people who maybe don't know about the message, that was the message that that was picked up by Jim Peniston when he touched the craft, and he got this binary message, and when it was decoded, it showed these 7 locations around the world. And so this has been decoded for a number of years, and this is what you're linking it into for people who aren't familiar what the message is all about.
Exactly. And again, I recommend always the great work of Gary Osborne on this. Gary's done tremendous analysis of this. There's much more information encoded in the Rendlesham forest than what I'm showing on the screen here. This is just one perspective of it, and I have probably, we could spend an entire program talking about it. I have many slides and many things because there's more to this. Gary has done fantastic work. Strongly recommend everyone to look at Gary's work on this. Okay, so I think we're going to be entering part number 2. So over the last few months, Grant, I mean, last few months, it's not that long ago, maybe starting August, September of 2022, I had the sighting back in May, and I have it in one of my other slides here. Back in May of 2022, I was broadcasting actually what I call the golden ratio frequency, this 1.618. I created a frequency, if you will, a tone with it, and I broadcasted it. Okay. And while I was broadcasting it, there's a triangular shape that just popped in and out right in front of the antenna. And that triangular shape really was like a tetrahedron. That's what brought, in my mind, I saw a tetrahedron.
Okay.
And this is where, this was the spark, if you will, that led me to look into platonic solids and combining platonic solids to this geometric harmonics that we're talking about here. And I started doing this quantum simulation like the one we saw earlier, right? This one we saw here, this one here, right? I started doing these simulations with these harmonics and the platonic solids. And that's where I found even more correspondence with quantum physics and so on. So I started connecting the dots exponentially. You know, it just started accelerating and things started to make sense. And so what I ended up coming with, essentially, I was able to replicate the foundation of the current physics and quantum physics with these harmonics, 144, 432, and golden ratio. But in this case, as we said, 432 is just 3 times 144, right? So everything essentially in a holographic universe can be reduced to the fundamental harmonic of light, 144, and golden ratio. This is what it comes down to.
Yeah. Okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So and so I was able to. There's a lot of math behind this. We're going to go through some slides in a few minutes. Again, I'm going to go fast for these slides. It will be just for the record because it's too technical for, I think, for the general people out there. But all this formula you see here, which is kind of same as A equal MC squared, right? It's very simple. It's in that sense. But with this formula, we can recreate the entirety of our universe, really.
Wow.
Now, let me walk you through it from the left to right. So again, the key one here is the fundamental harmonic of light 144, represented by the letter C. So when you see letter C, is the speed of light harmonic, right?
Okay.
It's 144. Now, the Planck length, we saw it earlier, right? We can have an equivalence in terms of golden ratio divided by 3. This is the Planck length, very high accuracy, 99.997% accuracy. The Planck volume, right? We talked about if we take the Planck length, which is the smallest oscillation of energy that can occur at the quantum level, and we create a sphere out of this diameter of that Planck length, I call it the Planck sphere or the Planck sphere volume. But this can be created essentially, again, with this little formula here, 1 over 2 times the harmonic 144. Now, creation of matter, to create the entire periodic table of elements, essentially creating the proton and neutrons, which are the foundation of the atoms. We use this equation here. We can match the mass of the proton and neutron at 99.98% and 99.9% respectively. The math is just outstanding. We'll see it in a minute. The Earth gravity acceleration can be represented by this equation. The total sum of the energy in the universe can be represented by 1 over 2 golden ratio. It's just amazing. So if we go on Wikipedia, for instance, right, and if you look at the estimated mass of the universe, which is 1.5 by 10 to the power of 53 kilograms, that's what's stated in our current physics as the best estimate of the mass of the universe. Well, if we use the equation of Einstein, right, E equal mc squared, since we have the mass of the universe, we can calculate the energy of the universe, right? E equal mc squared, that's what it is. Now, I have the harmonic equivalent of that equation here at the bottom, the red in red, right? So again, with the mass, the m equals the mass. If you take any mass and you divide by 3 golden ratio, you're going to get the harmonic energy equivalent. So if we do it for the universe, we take the estimated mass of the universe, 1.5 by 10 to the power of 53 as the mass, the m, divided by 3 golden ratio, we get the energy of the total visible universe, which is exactly to 100% accuracy granted to 1 over 2 golden ratio. I mean, 100% accuracy. I was absolutely stunned when I saw that. I was not expecting any of these results, really. Same for the volume of the universe. There's an estimated volume of the universe in the physics books. It's 3.566 by 10 to the power of 80 cubic meter. Now, if you turn that into a geometric harmonic unit, you will realize that the volume of the universe is exactly the golden ratio over 2 times the speed of light harmonic. Same for the energy density of the universe. Since we have the energy of the universe and the volume of the universe, if we ratio the energy over the volume, we get the energy density of the universe. And that energy density is equal to harmonic 144, which represents the C here, ratioed over the golden ratio squared. Wow. And amazingly, as we'll see, if we take the light harmonic 144, if we take the energy of the universe using the technique I showed earlier, we take the mass, we convert it into energy, and we divide that by the volume of the Planck sphere that we talked about, right? The Planck sphere is the quantum level. That's not the macro level. This is the quantum level. The smallest thing that can exist at the quantum level is the Planck sphere. Now, if we ratio the total energy of the universe that we calculate, we divide that by the volume of the Planck sphere, the energy density is exactly equivalent to 144 divided by the golden ratio.
Wow.
I mean, it's just stunning.
Yeah, stunning. Yeah.
Stunning. So I have at the right side here in that table, for those who are interested in math, you can use this information to make your own calculation. So again, the distance, we use the nautical mile. These are the geometric harmonics. How to convert, how to get geometric time. Well, to get geometric time, we take the time that we use and we simply divide by the double square root of the golden ratio. That's the conversion we do to convert current time into geometric time. The speed, of course, now it's there. So we have essentially the ingredients for those who want to play with the math to recreate all this and verify this.
Wow.
Now, if you recall in past presentations, I'm not going to go through all this again because there was so much stuff, right? But we demonstrated that harmonic 144 golden ratio and 432. With that, we can recreate the entirety of our physical reality. Now, let's go one by one. If we look here, I said earlier, the formula that I presented here in the previous slide, that was creation of matter, 1 divided by 2c cubed. Well, this is what allows us to create the protons and neutrons, which is at the foundation of the atom.
Wow.
Right, so we can create that. The Schumann resonance itself, 7.83 hertz, that frequency, when we convert that frequency into a harmonic geometric frequency, match exactly the reciprocal of 144. I mean, at 99.9% accuracy.
Wow.
So the Schumann resonance is in harmony with this harmonic of light. Brainwave is the same thing. I mean, we know the alpha state, the brainwave corresponds to, or the hypnagogia state, of course, you know, it's in the between 7 and 8 hertz of brainwaves. This matches the Schumann resonance. I mean, this is exactly in the same, but also happens to resonate with these harmonics as well. The water molecule, and that's important. That's a recent discovery I made, and I had a great contact with a wonderful gentleman by the name of Professor Jean-Paul de Vierville. You may know him. I've been in contact with him. He's got expertise in water and so on, and we've been in touch. There are great people out there. And anyway, so I found that the water molecule harmonic is perfectly in harmonic resonance in 144 and 432 and golden ratio as well. Same with human DNA. If you recall, we went through the human DNA. We looked at the angles and everything, the connections to 144. We looked at the velocity of stars and galaxies. The speed itself is exactly to the dot in harmonic resonance with 144 and 2 times 144 for the Milky Way. The Andromeda galaxy is exactly traveling at 144 harmonic, in terms of speed. The flower of life, we talked about it earlier. I mean, it's part of it, the 64 tetrahedron grid. Now, the energy and the size of the sun as well. We're going to see a couple of calculations on this. I knew about the size of the sun, but when we calculate the energy, if we take the mass of the sun, using again this E equal mc squared, but equivalent, right, in terms of this harmonic E equal m divided by 3 golden ratio. So we turn the mass of the sun that's stated in the physics books into energy, and we calculate the harmonic energy. We realize that it's exactly in harmonic resonance with these numbers. Wow. Quantum scale, we talked about the Planck sphere minutes ago. The Earth grid, I demonstrated that in past slides, that it's all based on the lattice, and all the platonic solids as well are in harmonic resonance with it. So essentially, there's just a menu of things, but it's everything, actually. Everything has a connection to that source, this fundamental harmonic of light 144 fractalized for the golden ratio. And that's what this slide represents here, essentially, is that, when we boil it down and we simplify it to the simplest form possible, what we realize is that we can demonstrate now mathematically that the fundamental harmonic of light 144 fractalized or divided through the golden ratio principle appear to explain all aspects of creation, everything we see around us, and allow to connect science and spirituality. So what people call creator, or the source creation, or God, or whatever name we want to put on the source, I like to call it the source. That source, based on what we're seeing here, we can demonstrate mathematically that this light energy vibrating at this harmonic of light energy fractalized through the golden ratio, that light was enough to create the entire universe that we know.
Yeah, and it also demonstrates to me, when I see this, is the whole scientific evolutionary model is based on random evolution. It's all accident, and what this is showing exactly the opposite, that it's all very, very programmed and very, very specific as to how it formed.
Absolutely. And it's almost hard to believe that this is not known today, right? I think that this knowledge of some of that knowledge, I mean, clearly it's been encoded in ancient sacred sites. It's all over the place. We saw the Great Pyramid is the testimony of it. In sightings, even the Nimitz sightings that experiencers like me, myself, and Linda have had, they are still the golden ratio triangular craft, the Rendlesham forest. They've been telling this to us. They've been communicating the keys to the universe to us all along. and just waiting for us to wake up and pick that information up and do something with it.
And
I think that's where we're at.
And it's good that you, as a former Canadian, have done this. You may know the story that there was some discussions, but that I was involved with between Americans and Canadians on disclosure with Canadian parliamentary people who wanted to sort of come forward. And the American version of the story was that we need to show this is a threat to airspace and this sort of thing. And the Canadians were very adamant that they wanted this to be a scientific investigation and that they wanted a study to be done by the science advisor to the Prime Minister. And I will guarantee you this presentation will get there because this is what they're looking for. They're looking for what you're doing here. And I'm just so proud that you're you're former Canadian and that you've on the leading edge of this, because this is what the Canadians wanted. They wanted a scientific investigation, which is exactly what you've done.
Yeah. Yeah, no, yes, it's scientific, and what it tells us, is that this intelligence, if they will want harm to us, they will not be giving us the keys of the universe.
yeah.
It's a bit contradictory. Now, the other thing, and that's going to be probably part of a next, a future update here. It doesn't end there. We talk about these harmonics, but when we combine these harmonics of light to the platonic solids now, we can explain how things are created. And let me give you an example. And according to theory, and Plato was stating that the universe was based on the dodecahedron, right? This is the shape of a dodecahedron, has 10 sides, made of 10 pentagons, right? And that's the next level. The next thing I did, I had done experimentation or quantum simulation with the tetrahedron, as we saw earlier. But I said, what if we plug in there these harmonics into this dodecahedron with the inscribed sphere again, right? This is all mathematical. We can all calculate the volumes of the sphere, the volume of the decahedron, and so on. So I did that. So what I did, and stunningly, if we represent that this side, because if we take the side of this dodecahedron, if we assign a number to this side, the length of this side, essentially, of this dodecahedron will determine the volume of the dodecahedron, right? The sides will determine the volume. Mathematically, all we need to calculate the volume, the total volume of this dodecahedron and the volume of the inscribed sphere inside is just this length here, this little length A. If we assign this length A as being 2 times the Planck length, right? We saw the Planck length, the smallest thing that can exist in the universe, the smallest oscillation of energy. 2 times the Planck length. That has an equivalent, again, with these harmonics. And we calculate mathematically the total volume of the dodecahedron. Well, the total harmonic volume of the dodecahedron matches exactly the energy of the sun at 100% match. So if we take the mass of the sun as stated on Wikipedia on the physics books, we convert with the E equal mc square, or using my harmonic equation, right? E equal m over 3 golden ratio. We take the mass, divide by 3 golden ratio, the harmonic energy will be exactly equivalent to the total volume of the dodecahedron. And more stunningly is that there's actually a typo here, but it should be the inscribed sphere volume of the dodecahedron will match the energy of the entire visible universe. I mean, try to wrap your mind around this. Right? So if we take the mass that's in the physics books of the universe, which is again 1.5 by 10 to the power of 53 kilogram, we convert this mass into energy. That harmonic number will match exactly the volume of the inscribed sphere of the dodecahedron. So it appears, and if you look, we started with the Planck length. Right? We started from the quantum scale applied to the dodecahedron, and we're able to extrapolate to understand and match the entire macro scale of the sun, of a star, to the entire universe. It goes from quantum to the entire universe, which shows again that everything we see, this matrix, this singularity, is folded within itself. That is the demonstration here. That is the demonstration, is that you go from the Planck length and through the golden ratio principle, you can scale it up to the entire size of the universe. So everything is folded within itself from quantum to macro. That's what the message is here.
Wow. From one end to the other, you got it.
Yep.
Wow.
The other thing I tried with the dodecahedron was, okay, I said, let's assign the side here again, which again would determine the volumes as being harmonic 432. What if we assign this side as being 4.32? If we do that and we calculate again the total volume of the dodecahedron, the total volume will match the reciprocal of the golden ratio at 99.96% match. And the inscribed sphere volume will be equal to 2 times harmonic 144 times golden ratio at 99.94% match.
Wow.
And the residual volume is the volume outside the sphere, which is a reciprocal of the square root of harmonic 432. So it's just stunning. These numbers are just coming over and over again. It's just perfect. And so that's the work I'm at right now. I'm working with platonic solids. But there's more than one, right? I mean, if you look at the platonic solids, there's the tetrahedron, the dodecahedron has 10 sides, the icosahedron has more than the, we get the different ones. So that's, I'm doing these quantum simulations now, and I realize that when we, again, we charge this platonic solid with these harmonics, we can recreate everything we see around us. We create the sun energy, we can create the energy of the entire universe. And interestingly, this matches what Plato told us. I mean, Plato said the universe was based on a dodecahedron.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it says it. You see, it's writing that Plato used the dodecahedron as the quintessence to describe the cosmos.
Wow.
And stated that the time had the beginning. It came together with the universe in one instant of creation. I mean, it's just a slight energy in the dodecahedron created the entire universe.
Absolutely fascinating. This is, to me, this is like history, watching history being rewritten here.
And
science
the math
being rewritten.
Yeah, the math is so beautiful and perfect.
Oh,
it's just,
exactly.
It's undeniable. I mean, how can you have this kind of accuracy? It's just... okay, I'm going to zap through a few slides pretty quickly. Again, this is for the record. So I want for those who wants to dig into this a bit more, that they can do it themselves. We talked about the Planck length earlier, right? This is what you're going to find in the physics books: 1.6.16 by 10 to the power of negative 35 meter.
Yeah.
We convert it into the geometric harmonic unit, the nautical mile system, which is what we need to use to see this new reality. And when we do that and we construct a sphere, that sphere will have a harmonic equivalent of 348, essentially, 0.021. Okay. Wow. Now, if we use now the harmonic of light, now we go from the classical physics to geometric harmonics. This is the new perspective on physics here that I want to bring up, right? If we do the same exercise, but we use, we ratio 1 over 2 times the speed of light harmonic, 144, we get an equivalent Planck sphere volume of 347. Look at the nice match with the classical physics.
Wow.
99.8%.
Yep.
Again, we can recreate the entirety of reality in the quantum scale using these harmonics. And this is the formula that matches that. So what we see here, all this math that I did can be simplified through this formula: 1 over 2 times the speed harmonic.
Yeah. And that's sort of like a key that in science is, if you can get it down to a very simple formula, then that's what it's all about. It's
exactly same for, I mean, if you look at the volume of the universe, which is in terms of nautical miles cubed, right? This is the volume that we use. I'm going to do it on the screen here because it's simple enough. So we take this, the golden ratio, 1.618.
Yeah.
Right. 3398875, and we divide that by 2 times the speed of light harmonic. We divide it by 2 times harmonic 144, right? The C equals 144, and we get 561.817, and that's what we see here, 561.817. You see, so that little formula essentially represents the entire volume of the universe at 99.92% accuracy.
Wow, that's incredible. Incredible. Wow.
Now, here's this slide is just interesting too. Again, on the upper side here, this upper part of the screen, we look at the classical physics, right? Using the classical books, we do this conversion. If we ratio, and that's where we see that all the universe is folded within itself, right? It's a singularity. If we take the entire volume of the universe represented by 561.382, We ratio that over the volume of the Planck sphere. Again, this is the quantum level, the smallest thing that can exist in the universe, smallest sphere of energy. This equals exactly the golden ratio at 99.7%. The universe is just a scaled up version of the quantum scale. So that's why everything is connected. If we look, if we use geometric harmonics now, if I use the technique now that I developed, so if we calculate the Planck sphere using the harmonic 144, and we do the same ratio, we get even closer to the golden ratio. We get 1.617, so it's 99.92% match with the golden ratio.
And yours actually sort of brings together the things that they've always had the trouble with between the quantum world and the Newtonian world, where they don't really match. And yours shows the connection between the two and in simple formulas.
You just nailed it right on the head, because that's a key point. There's always been contradiction. There's been a disagreement between classical physics and quantum physics. They cannot get them to reconcile. But using geometric harmonics, we don't have that problem.
Wow. If you don't get the Nobel Prize, it's not a fair world. I'm telling you, this is, to me, it just looks like this is revolutionary. It fits so well. There's no sort of holes in it's just beautiful. Beautiful math, I guess they would call it, right?
The math is just so beautiful and soft. And my goal really, Grant, is there's a lot of smart people out there, much smarter than I, that can pick this up and drive this to the end goal, drive this to development of technologies, healing technologies, anti-gravity, travel, and so on.
Wow.
Now, this is another representation here of what we saw earlier, right? We took the Planck sphere volume, the smallest sphere that exists at the quantum level, and we simply multiply by the golden ratio. We get exactly the volume of the universe at 99.92% match with classical physics.
Wow.
Now, here's one. This is an interesting one. You remember the golden ratio triangular craft, right? That we saw earlier, and I showed the analysis of this triangle. That was containing the golden ratio and all these harmonics. Well, this actually, what it is, Grant, is a tool. The non-human intelligence has given us a tool to make this connection. So if we plug here the value of the Planck sphere volume as the length of this side, mathematically, based on that triangle, the side C, the longest side, will match exactly the volume of the universe.
That's incredible. It's just incredible, Jimmy.
It's 99.9% match. I mean, we see here 560.97 instead of 561.818. So they just did the work for us. They gave us a tool.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Like, well, the students, right? They gave us a tool, and play with that. And you're going to figure this out, maybe, right? I think that's what maybe they decided to do. All right, this one is very, very important here. This formula, 1 over 2 times the speed of light harmonic cubed. This is one of the most important ones, because this is responsible for the creation of all the matter around us. The protons and neutrons is what makes up the atoms, right? This is the foundation of the atoms. If we ratio that, and I'm going to do it on the screen, and I have this here. Here's the definition. So, well, this formula is the simplified version. Before going to simplify, let me explain you where that's coming from. That's coming from this again. We're using again this Planck sphere volume, right? This 347 Planck sphere we saw earlier, right? This guy here and here. We use the same sphere. This is like a crucible of creation. We take that Planck sphere volume, we just divide that by the speed of light harmonic 144 squared. This gives exactly the mass of the proton and neutron, which are the elemental particles that creates 99% of our visible universe. I'm going to do it on the screen because it's so simple. A student in high school can do this math. It's not complicated. Like that's 347.2. Right? It divide by harmonic 144 squared. We get 1.6745, right? 1.6745. The mass of the neutron is 1.6749, and the mass of the proton is 1.6726. This matches exactly the creation of matter.
Wow. Wow.
That's how matter is created. Again, it's stunning because it all comes from this harmonic 144. They call it the God or source creation,
the
source
God
creator.
number.
that light energy, that spark of light in this mathematical proportion is enough to create the visible universe we have around us and all the elements from the periodic table of elements.
Wow.
And okay, I'm going to zip through the slide. This is the mathematical demonstration, how simplification, right? How, if you look here, what we did is this, right? 347 divided by this. If we simplify that mathematically, that's how we end up to simplify it to this beautiful, very simple formula here. This is the responsible for massive creation of mass. Wow. Earth gravity acceleration, again, follows this equation here that's simplified at 99.9%. Let me show you the details. So, and now again, we use the same ingredient from the quantum scale, but this time we flip it. We take the harmonic 144, we ratio that, divide that by the Planck's volume that we saw, that sphere, and we end up with a harmonic that matches exactly the gravity acceleration at 99.9%.
Unbelievable.
And this is the simplified version, essentially. Again, just all about harmonic
formula.
Simple formula. This we had covered during the last update. I had introduced that, but I'm just going to speak about it again because it's so important. So if we take the famous E equal mc squared of Einstein, the general relativity equation, and we use geometric harmonics instead, we can transform or convert this equation into this one at the bottom. E equal the mass divided by 3 golden ratio. So that gives, with the mass of the universe, for instance, we can calculate the energy of the universe. That's how I did it earlier. Right? As simple as that, very simple.
Wow.
And this is the mathematical demonstration. I'm going to zap it through quickly to show how we go from the universal formula that I described earlier, you know, of the light encoded reality matrix, that we can extract the golden ratio. We extract the c-square component that we substitute into the general relativity equation, and that these are the new equation we get at the bottom, this geometric harmonics equation that we can now use to do all this work and this create this new perspective on physics, if you will.
Wow.
And I showed, like, just to show that I'm not making this up, if you go on Wikipedia, the volume of the universe, I talked about it earlier, right? There's an estimated volume of 3.566 by 10 to the power of 80 cubic meter. The mass, as I said, is 1.5 by 10 to the power of 53 kilogram. So this is how we can calculate using that harmonic equation here. We just take the mass of the universe is 1.5 by 10 to the power of 53 kilogram. We plug that in and we can calculate the energy of the universe. And that's how I did it, essentially. So the total amount of energy in the universe using what I just showed, right? We take this mass divided by 3 golden ratio equals exactly this 1 over 2 golden ratio at 99.994%. That's essentially the entire energy of the visible universe is represented by this. Now, why is there 2, right? Why is it not like 1 over golden ratio where there's a 2? I think, again, that's where the research needs to continue here. I think we see often this ratio 1 over 2 or 2 golden ratio. I think it's because there's a 1 golden ratio that's responsible for the regular matter that we see in our visible reality. And there's another portion that's for the antimatter, the antimatter. Right? I think that's how the universe works. There's this polarity, right, that cancels itself out, essentially. This more research needs to be done. This is again, we'll go quickly through this. This is the detailed calculation based on what we talked about to calculate the total amount of energy in the universe. And this is the energy density, the smallest, you know, the simplified formula here. And this is, I mean, let me explain this one. There's really a component that's more spiritual to this, because if you look at it, the total amount of energy in the universe ratioed over the volume of the Planck sphere, right? This is at the quantum level. We take the universe energy ratioed over the volume of the quantum at the quantum level, exactly match at 100% match. The harmonic 144 ratioed over the golden ratio, which means that the total amount of energy of the universe is this harmonic of light 144 fractalized through the golden ratio. That's what that means. And everything is folded within itself in this singularity. And it's so simple. I mean, it can be represented by this here, right? And the same one. So again, here we had ratio the total amount of energy of the universe by the Planck sphere at the quantum level. Now, if we ratio the energy of the universe over the volume of the universe, right, which is what we see with our eyes, it's the same thing. It's the harmonic 144 ratioed over the golden ratio squared this time at 99.994% match. I mean, that's what the universe is. It's just the spark of light from the source that's fractalized for the golden ratio principle of the video we saw earlier. That's what it is.
Wow. Just stunning.
And this is the mathematical demonstration of it. Again, the energy density, or we take the amount of energy we talked about, calculated with the mass of the universe, ratio that over the Planck sphere volume, we get this. I mean, the match, Grant, is 100%. I mean, it's just stunning. It's just stunning. And this one is the energy of the universe ratioed over the volume of the universe, and again equals 144 over the golden ratio squared. And this is the what we saw earlier, and I had a typo, but yeah, when we again charged the dodecahedron, as Plato said, the universe was made of the dodecahedron, and we assigned the length of the segment by 2 times the Planck length. The volume of the inscribed sphere is equivalent to the energy of the universe. And the total volume of the dodecahedron matches exactly the energy of the sun.
Oh.
This is the math that's supporting the slide we saw earlier. Finally, I just have 3 more slides, and then I think I'm going to be done. For those who are going to be working on the math of it, again, in harmonic mathematics, we see an example here. These numbers are all the same, right? You can slide the decimal left or right. You can ignore the zeros, essentially, right? You can slide the decimal. So that's 0.00432 is equivalent to this, This is what harmonic mathematics works. And how we convert the Earth time into geometric time, we use this transformation here, this double square root of the golden ratio. This is if you recall, I presented when I found the solution to squaring the circle, or circling the square, right? I use this this transformation, and that's what allows to convert Earth time into geometric time, or Earth frequency into geometric frequency. And then finally, we use a nautical mile system because that's what's compatible with harmonic geometric harmonics. And so this is the unit we need to use, and that's the reason why is explained in that slide. I'm not going to go through it in details, but this is the background for those who wants to do the math on it.
Absolutely. The other night I was doing an interview, Jimmy, and I said that if I were to die tomorrow, I think I would be sort of happy with what I've learned in terms of what I know, that I think we're actually sort of getting somewhere. And tonight you've absolutely assured me that we absolutely are getting somewhere. That's where this thing with the report, that the stuff I've seen and the stuff that especially stuff you showed tonight, I mean, it's just, to me, it's just absolutely, how can you question this? I mean, so I'm going to push as much as I can. I've got a couple of ideas in my head of people that I'm going to make sure they see this and get some comments on this, some pretty high people. And I don't think I'll sleep tonight. I just your stuff is always amazing, but this is like almost like the fitting it all together. You've gone through all this, and now it's come down to these very simple formulas that sort of spell it out. I'm so fascinated and so honored to actually be able to be one of the first people to see this. So thank you so much. And
thank you, Grant. Thank you. I mean, I so much appreciate the platform you provide, because it's not on every platform that we can show this material in the way that I did, because I go in pretty good technical details, and it's difficult to find platforms that you can, for instance, it's really hard if you go to a radio show. You can't do this. I mean, how do you explain all this stuff? You need the visual, right? You need the visual. It's complex enough that you need the visual, but also the time and the platform and the space to do it. So I really enjoy talking with you and Nicole, Grant, because that platform is absolutely perfect to present this material. Things are accelerating. It's been an amazing journey, and it's going exponentially, because now that we know this, probably each slide there could be an entire book. I mean, we could study each slide. I mean, the ramifications of that and the math behind it are so huge that now, and it's a matter of perspective. When we look at the universe with that perspective, we see that everything around us is based on that. Everything. It's just a matter to connect the math to it, and it just works out. Because why does it work out? Because that's what it is. That's what it is. And I'm very excited about it, and things will just keeps progressing. So I don't know where that's going to lead us, but right now, to me, this presentation was one of the most important one in terms of the importance of the information. I feel strongly that with that basis now we can look at physics from a completely different perspective and recreate it in a sense. We have the tools to recreate a new physics that's going to serve humanity. It's not going to be shielded by false concepts or limitations in concepts, because we know everything about the consciousness field, singularity, holographic universe, this kind of thing. I mean, these things have been hidden or suppressed, from the main science, and now it's undeniable because the math is there to back it up. It's just not speculation. The math is there to back it up, and interestingly, as we saw, the intelligence has been communicating this to us all along.
That's the key. That's the key. Is it looks like they've been laying this down, and that's where when you thought, I was thinking to myself, well, maybe that's what it's all about. What the sightings are all about. It's really got nothing to do with. They're not going anywhere. They're not doing anything. They're indirectly talking. Like we want to have a sort of a left brain thing where they come down and they give us a little speech and they talk to us in language, and it's not. It's all symbolic. It's all mathematics. It's all this sort of right brain symbology stuff, and you're the guy that seems to have got the connection. There's other people that like the people who did the stuff with the the golden ratio and all that kind of stuff on the pyramid and stuff, but the way you put it together tonight with these very sort of simple formulas that show the universe is very simple, and it's very exact, and there's relationships to everything, and that's what mathematics is. It's just showing relationships between different parts of creation, and once you get it all together, it all fits together and all makes sense. You don't really have to bring in God or spirituality. I mean, it's all mathematics. In the end, it comes down to the fact that this all fits. I mean, it's wherever you and this idea that it's not nothing random about it at all. It's all very carefully put together, and you've changed my mind, especially about the sighting stuff. I mean, I don't know whether you looked at the Phoenix lights, but you start looking back at all these sightings and you go like, wow, maybe this is what this is all about. It's all indirectly symbols, and it's been 5,000 years, nobody picked up on it, and then suddenly you have one sighting and you measure the size of this triangle that you saw, and suddenly it all starts to unravel, and you take it from there, and it all comes together. But it's been
exactly.
there for forever, and nobody's seen it.
Yeah, exactly. And the sightings from Linda, to me, it was just it was very important because it's something that comes from somebody else too, right? It's a separate experience. She asked me to look at it to see if I could find something, and here we are. I started digging into it, and by intuition, I looked at the right stuff probably, and it's just revealing the same thing again. It's an additional confirmation, and a powerful one. It's been encoded everywhere, and I mean, many ancient sacred sites around the world themselves in their structure contains that, and the location where they are contains that. We saw the Great Pyramid is built at a specific latitude and longitude, which it matches that, right? And the Rendlesham the same, and I've done different analysis of the Rendlesham. It's just stunning because quantum physics, the Planck sphere volume we saw earlier, this 347 and 340, this Planck sphere volume is encoded in Rendlesham all over the place. I mean, there's depending on how you look at it, and it's just everywhere. So I realized, and as we saw even the Royal Egyptian cubit that's used as the measurement unit of the Great Pyramid is based on the Planck length times 2 golden ratio. It's just a scaled up version of the quantum scale. It's right in our face. I mean, it's just right in our face. So it's it's very amazing. And so one thing I've been doing now for several months, when I create these slides, I encode them and I broadcast them throughout the universe with my radio station. And it's a way to let them know that, hey, we figured this one out, send more information. And interestingly, the inspiration is just effortless. I mean, the inspiration comes effortlessly, and I think we're getting help. Clearly we're getting help there.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Because you've moved along a path that is just stunning over the last, how long's it been? What, 2 years since you started this?
Well,
it's not been that long.
No. I mean, really, the work on these harmonics and golden ratio, I started in November 2000 is last year. It's a year and 2 months only.
Wow.
14 months.
Yeah, it's
I started from zero, and 14 months ago, I started from scratch. And then, and you know, if you recall how I got into it, is because the exit to get to my home here from the freeway is exit
That's
144 just before getting here. And that number was all over the place. And I started digging into it and looking at some documentation, and I found the amazing work of Bruce Cathy, who was a pioneer in the field, by the way. This gentleman is deceased now, but he's really laid down the foundation on some of these geometric harmonics, mathematics, and so on. But anyway, so I got some of the basic stuff, you know, the math, and then I started looking at it from my own perspective with analyzing the sightings, and it just things started snowballing from there exponentially, and it keeps now, because now that we know all this stuff, everywhere we look, it's everywhere, right? So it's unending quest, if you will, for the truth. But now I think we have a strong basis to do something with it and develop technologies with this. And again, I encourage the folks out there to pick this up and work on it. You know, it's not proprietary. This is for humanity, for the betterment of humanity.
It reminds me, you're an engineer, right?
I'm a chemist. I'm a scientist, a chemist, and I have a background in electronics and all kind of different things.
Yeah, because Eric Walker had the thing with the he had an expression that he was the former president of Penn State University. He was the guy who knew all the UFO stuff. We were trying to get him to talk, and he had this one expression one time. He said, you know, scientists can fill libraries full of material, but it's not until an engineer comes along that something gets built that will actually be useful to the public.
Yeah, that's
it's like all this stuff's been there all along. Along comes Jimmy, and it's like, here we go. It's like, I'm just so honored to have been involved not only in this one, but in all the presentations that you've done. And I'll talk to you off the air. I've got some ideas of how I can maybe help you, but I'm just so honored and I'm just so amazed. It's like, wow, it's almost revelatory. The stuff you've done is beyond anything I could imagine. Thank you, Jimmy, for doing this and for putting it out to the world. And I can just see it accelerating more and more as you go along, and other people like Bob has jumped on it, and the Rendlesham Forest people have jumped on it, and it's going to be a matter of time till a bunch of people start working on it seriously and help you out. And so I think we're getting there, and that's why I said in this interview the other night, I start to feel like for years I didn't think we were getting anywhere. Nothing was happening. In the last couple of years, I actually figure like, you know, if I were to die tomorrow, I'm pretty content that I learned an awful lot about what this is all about. Because when it started, I had no idea what was going on. I had none. And now when I see, especially when I see this, I go like, wow. It's just like,
there's really a picture. There's really a picture that's
really a
picture that's emerging. And you know, it's, you know, again, I encourage the folks out there to look into this. We need to, you know, keep doing the work. I wish I could do this. I will have more time to do this. I mean, I spend a very small fraction of my time on this, maybe 5% of my time. Is
that right? Wow.
Yeah, you know, I have a full-time job. I have a, you know,
family and stuff.
Again, and a little farm. I take care of chickens and goats and ducks, and so busy man, you know. So I just. Fortunately, the inspiration has been coming to me.
Yeah. You seem to have been led. That's for sure. You've got, especially the exit 144. That was, I remember you telling me about that. It was like, you know, I think you almost emailed me and said, "Oh, guess what?"
Yeah, that's just crazy. And it's numbers everywhere. Well, thanks again, Grant. Cannot thank you enough for providing this platform. Again, I was eager to release this information because I really want this information to be available to humanity to pick it up and do what needs to be done with it. And I'm glad it's out there now.
Beautiful. Okay, let's stop the tape here. Let's see. Stop.